Hey guys, I appreciate you joining in, appreciate you watching. I want to talk a little bit about gun laws, gun control in this country. And I want to do so in order to answer a question. Are gun laws racist? Are gun laws elitist? Are they both? I think this is an important question. And as we kind of go through a couple of bullet points in the history of gun control in this country, I think it will begin to paint a very specific picture about this, all right? Now, whether you're pro-gun, anti-gun, I want to hear your comments, your thoughts on this. All I ask is that in the comment section, keep it respectful, okay? Now, first off, let's talk about the National Firearms Act, the NFA. Back in the 1930s, government got together under the premise of trying to stop crime. They tried to put together this National Firearms Act that did a few different things, but the main thing it did was tax certain types of firearms $200, okay? So what does this mean? What did this really do? Well, it's essentially like the government coming in and saying, look, if you want to own something, you're going to have to pay us $200. It's not like a manufacturer saying this is how much I'm charging for it. It's above and beyond the retail price of these firearms. So what does that really mean? How is that important? Well, this is the 1930s. $200 back then was a lot of money even for an upper middle class family. It was a good chunk of money. Essentially what this law did was it priced out a large portion of the population from being able to own certain types of firearms. That sounds kind of elitist to me. I don't know about you. So let's look at another gun law that was passed. Let's look at the 1968 Gun Control Act. Now this did several different things, but again, one of the main things it did was it targeted inexpensive firearms by going after importation laws. Essentially, it banned the importation of cheap firearms, inexpensive guns. Now, they say they did this to stop criminals from buying cheap guns and then using them in a crime and throwing them away. And that did occasionally happen. But over 90% of the firearms, the inexpensive imported firearms that were being purchased by law-abiding, low-income citizens who just wanted to protect themselves. So essentially, what did this law do? Well, it may have stopped a few crimes, but mostly what it did was take firearms and self-defense out of the hands of low-income, non-criminal citizens who just wanted to defend themselves. That's what it did. It's basically the government coming in and saying, look, we don't want you to have guns. You're too poor. So we're going to ban them. We're not going to let them get imported into the country. Sorry. Again, that's a pretty elitist law. Now let's go back even further. The original gun laws in this country, okay, were formed in the South after the Civil War. And they were formed to specifically and only affect black people. Why? Well, because the people in the South didn't want the black people who were now free owning guns. So, extremely racist gun laws. And that's the beginning of the gun control and gun laws in our country right there. Another good example, the original gun laws in both California and New York, okay, were targeted, specifically aimed at doing whatever they could to try and prevent black people, Hispanic people, and Asian people from being able to own or get a hold of or afford firearms. That's where gun control in those two huge pro-gun control states started. It started as not only racist, but elitist as well. Today, if you look on the news, if you pay attention to what's going on, some of the biggest proponents of gun control laws are the people who either own guns themselves or can afford to have security that uses the guns to protect them. All evidence points to the fact that the people who push the hardest for gun control don't actually care about gun violence and gun crime. They only care about keeping people they deem unworthy from owning guns. So the question is, above and beyond, are gun laws racist or elitist or both? The question is, what are gun laws today really trying to do? Now that's a question worth considering.